And we're now heading into our third series of the day. We've had two bangers already, but now we've got the likes of Avik and Dramus, which should be quite a spicy matchup here. We know Dramus can be a bit of a diamond in the rough, can cause some of his players quite a few issues at times. We'll have to see if Avik's going to be one of them, but we know how strong Avik can be and how flawless he can be as well, considering some really impressive matches he's had in the past so far this season.
Absolutely. Avik currently 5th place in the global leaderboards, top 5. That is a testament to his skill. And if we look at his history, we can see 4 wins, 5 losses. Yeah, but he's taken down the likes of Chain, StrongSage, and Sirius in the past. So Avik clearly starting to build up some momentum. But today he's up against Dramus.
Yeah, of course, Avik's dueling experience is able to help contend and defeat some of his toughest opponents here. As you can see, he's defeated, as you rightly mentioned, Kron, Sirius, Chain, and StrongSage. Had a few issues as well against the likes of Kilson, quite a close series against Zen as well, and Razy on top of that. So it's not like he's getting cleanly 3-0'd or anything like that. He's still taking some of his maps away to, of course, as you mentioned, keeping himself in one of those top 8 positions here. But of course, Dramus is going to be absolutely no easy feat in itself. We know how many problems he can create for some of his top contenders here in the Crate Pro League. Always has done, always will do. He can be a real pain in the backside at times and can be a very strong opponent to deal with.
Indeed, so far Dramus 3 wins, 5 losses, most recently taken down Maxter and hitting some incredible shots in that series, 2-1. And I think that that's always something that has other players just wary around Dramus, you know, because yeah, overall he's in 9th place on the leaderboards right now, so well behind Avik, but he's got that potential to land the sickest shots imaginable, using the rail like a shotgun more or less, and just completely turning around fights in his favor that he should never have been able to win in the first place.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do get that's one of the many frustrations where there's some disadvantageous plays he makes and just gets away with it, and that's just the creativity behind Dramus. Some people may say it's a predictability, but he gets away with it sometimes, but that's why he could be an absolute real nuisance. And you saw from the scorelines as well from his previous opponents where some of the top opponents he may have not been able to defeat them in the series outright, but at least taken quite a few maps, and every map is going to count at this point. And this season is definitely starting to turn out to be one of the closest seasons we've witnessed so far. And even some of the, the new names like such as Sirius coming back into Pro League, and with StrongSage as well as another added addition, just really creating a lot of chaos here in the Pro League and just really putting a bit of an impact as well. But let's go to the picks and bans shortly, because I think we need to really not just digest but dissect exactly what is going to be occurring upon us. And we can see Corruptor Keep and Deep Embrace banned outright straight away. The Anarchy has been banned, of course, you can see for Dramus' side. So we will see the Slash versus the Solag. We've seen the same 3 champions, obviously, the Scale, the Slash, and the Solag, but of course, it's not going to be anything like the Scale and the Slash matchup before. We've got the Solag in play, and I've said it previously, more times than not, if you do see a Solag, or if you're a Solag enjoyer, then normally more times than not, you will witness someone using the Solag on Molten Falls. Going into Ruins with the Ranger versus Galena matchup, so of course, Avik keeping those totems in check, and just to see what routes and what areas Dramus is going to defend, of course keeping those totems up. And then lastly, we do have Awoken. We're going to have the Athena and the Visor picks actually being made here going into the final part of this series.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely some interesting things here. Map 1, again, we're seeing Slash versus a heavy champion, right? Something we've seen quite often. This time it's against Solag, not Scalebearer like we saw before, and that gives Dramus a bit more mobility to try and chase Avik down. But if the Polish Prince does get in the lead, Slash is going to be so difficult to catch. We saw exactly how to play it watching StrongSage earlier. Now, maps 2 and 3, what stands out to me is that they've kind of taken each other's, well, I wouldn't say main picks, but very popular picks. Avik very often plays Galena. This time around, Dramus is playing Galena. And then finally, on Awoken, Dramus has been playing more and more Athena. Well, this time around, it's Avik who's taken away the Athena. So they're kind of playing picks that the other is known for. Now, on Awoken, what does stand out to me is that Visor pick. Especially when Doom for example, was still up for picks, right? Doom is a staple pick on Awoken, see him there time and time again, whereas Visor, most people would say that he has less utility because it's a smaller map, so you should generally have a better idea of where your opponent is. Plus, when you do use the piercing sight, they're almost always going to hear you use it and they're going to know that it's up. So Visor, not the most common pick on Awoken, so I'm a little surprised and confused by that one and curious to see how Dramus will approach it.
Yeah, there wasn't, of course, too many champions available. There was the Eisen, which we've seen on rare occurrences on Awoken scale, has been made to good use on Awoken as well by, I think, Strong Sage used the scale a couple of times. And yeah, we'll have to see what he could do with his Visor pick as well against the Athena. We know how strong the Athena can really be on this map. And when we get to that stage, if it does go one apiece, then I'll be quite curious to see how that unfolds later on. And yeah, you're right about the Ruins matchup. I find it quite funny because it's literally a bit of a role reversal, isn't it, with these champions? Yeah. So they're both going to understand how this matchup goes with their own champions if it was the other way around, but they're probably going to see if they're going to use the similar strategies, of course, going into this. But this is going to be a close one. I can't see this being a clean sweep for either player. I would say maybe more on Avic's side, considering what we've seen in the past and what he's been able to do and accomplish against some of his top opponents. But I feel like this could go 2-1 either side, maybe slightly favouring Avic.
I'm going to agree. I would say 2-1 in favor of Avic as well. Also, if we look back at their match history, they've only played twice in the history of the Quake Pro League, but Avic managed to win both of those. So if he continues that trend, it should be another win for him today. But it's going to be hard fought no matter who comes out on top.
That's fine. I'm quite excited to see who's going to come out on top of this one. Of course, we know with Avic, he is still quite high up in the leaderboard, don't get me wrong. So he wants to try and keep himself up there, and if he can. Of course, before these matches occurred, as you said, Avic's currently going 4-5, but it's actually 14-13 in terms of map ratio and currently in 5th. And it's all about these maps. Of course, the series wins are important, going forward. But if you've still got a few more maps wins in comparison, and you've got a few more points, then it means you will be able to get higher up on that leaderboard. But Dramus, he's still just teetering on that 8th barrier. So he's literally on the borderline here. And of course, he doesn't want to get swept, but a 2-1 victory for him is going to be so crucial for him, considering the opponents he's been playing against and who he's got left to compete against, of course, going to the last portion of this series. So I think an Avic 2-1 is probably the safest bet here, and it's nice to see that we've got some very interesting matchups going forward.
Yeah, indeed. We just went back to lobby, changing the server real quick. We are going to start on a EU server to kick things off. So ping might slightly favor Avic, at least on the first map, as we are restarting the lobby just to get going. So we'll be in-game any moment now for the first match of this series, which I think is going to reveal a lot about the shape and the form that these players are in, right? We've kind of dissected it first. We've got Dramus running the heavy, big body champion Sorlek. She's fast, she's got mobility, she's got a powerful ability that deals damage as well. But Slash is probably, I would say, the single best pick on Molten Falls, simply because of the speed. I think she's an S-tier champion. She's one of the most popular picks. I've heard pros say that if your opponent doesn't pick her, you have to pick her, right? Going into it, you have to either ban her or you have to pick her yourself because she is just so powerful on this map. And again, Avic will be the one to run her. So he'll be at a significant stack at disadvantage rather, but he will have the mobility in his favor.
Makes perfect sense, though, doesn't it? You don't want to give your opponent such a massive advantage. And she's always been, like you said, S tier, a lot of these bigger scale maps. But it's quite interesting over the last 18 months how we've seen her be used on, even Awoken a couple of times, even on Deep Embrace, which was just a kind of like a mind-blowing thing in the past. But now it's been something which can get used and can get utilized. But I think it's a huge amount of caution on what your opponent selects, because it may make a little bit redundant depending on what your opponent selects as well. So which is why we kind of see it now and again, depending on what gets selected at the very beginning. But as we can see, Molten Falls, we've seen a lot of Molten Falls today here, Flea, but we're going to get a little bit more. We're going to kick things off between Avic and Dramus, third series of the day. And speaking of the man himself, the Polish Punisher, we're going to be kicking things off from his perspective.
Looking at the predictions in chat, sizable majority favors Avic as well, so let's see how he approaches this. Starting off on his perspective. He got the heavy spawn, which is exactly what he was hoping for. When you're playing the light champion, you spawn without any armor to begin with, so it's widely considered better and more advantageous to be in control of heavy than mega when you are playing the light champion. Now, there is already a bit of a delay between the items. There we go, Avik wins the information game. He sticks around a little longer. He hears the timing at which heavy has been picked up, but Dramis did not do the same for mega. So that means that Avik is now fully aware of the exact times that both the major items spawns, whereas Dramis is only really in control of one of them.
Now Avik just biding his time. That's from Avik as well, just repositioning himself to hear the timing of the heavy. Gets the info he requires, picks up the mega. Both timing's about 3 seconds segregated from each other, and he's going to have the angle. Oh, sadly for him, he weapon selected at the wrong time, but at least he had the tri-bolt to do a bit of damage anyway. Or you could say almost guaranteed damage with that 47. Heavy's up in 8. And look at this, Avik's just being quite cautious. He's just going to see if he can wonder whereabouts and where he could be lurking near this heavy. It's just a second rail in the end. Hits another. Looking to go for that third, but he's dropping down a few rockets here. But Dramis gets an incredible rocket of his own. It's only left on 9 HP. And straight away, I'm quite eager for that trade. 2 minutes in, and now Dramis with the first frag to his name.
Aggressive push from Avik right there. Just kind of showing his face around the railgun. Knowing that, you know, you're a light champion, you don't have any armor on spawn. Oh, that spit is gonna start hurting. The bubble spawned. That was a convenient bubble respawn for Avik. I think if he had, you know, sprinted out of there down towards Mega, he should, you know, have been able to pick up one of those bubbles down there. So he probably wouldn't have perished, but it sure helped. Let's put it that way.
Avik has a slash in Joy. He's been and is quite calm and quite balanced here with the slash. Great LG coming out. Good rockets coming out from Dramiso, and he's going to be able to retain the lead, but the trade comes out. Does burn the heavy, so we're tied back up to a piece. But burning that heavy was very important.
Avik just jumped clean over the railgun. There's no way that was intentional. He just jumped over it, didn't pick it up, and then just kind of showed up and probably realized, like, hey, I don't have the rail right now. Dramis, again, securing a frag, 1 point in the lead. Heavy's about to... Ooh, okay, Dramis. Dramis was getting ready to start stunting there, but wisely averted his course, didn't get enough momentum from the rocket jump. Do what he wanted. This is big damage from Dramis. Good use of the acid spit so far. It's really been helping in a lot of these fights.
And of course, Dramis wasn't weak enough for Avik to try and pursue another engagement. Oh, that rocket barely missed Avik there, but Dramis does seem to back away a little bit. It's going to have to be greeted by Avik straight away, being very aggressive. I love that. Picks up the health bubbles and is able to get this mega too. So was back to a stack he desired. 15 seconds left until this heavy. Let's see how Dramis is going to approach this. It's going to be greeted by Avik, and Avik just standing his ground gets a lot of damage, but whips out the rocket straight afterwards. 56 HP, and I like this from Dramis as well. He knows that there's a good opportunity for Avik to try and trade this out and not get overzealous for this heavy. Finally gets picked up, and Dramis now needs to skirt around the map and just try and recover, but it's not going to have any time then. Avik does pick up the mega as well. This could be a massive difference maker from Avik here. This is huge from him, and now he's back into position to try and bag this heavy. We'll be up in the next 9 seconds.
Perhaps a little too greedy from Dramis right there. Might not have expected Avik to just make a clean run for it. Now Avik, out of rockets, still gonna commit to the chase, takes one bad rail. Gotta be careful, 2 seconds before Mega. Avik is in position, doesn't quite get the float he was looking for. And this time around, it's Dramis secures the Mega. Dramis has really been using that heavy stack to his advantage. He's just kind of been bullying Avik in a lot of these engagements, right? Avik will hold his ground with LG and will do more damage than his opponent, will have higher accuracy, but Dramus just knows that he's got the stack to push on through, just close the gap and then finish it off with rockets and spit.
Not wrong there, and Dramus, as much as he would like to push on towards Avik, Avik's just continuing to keep his distance. All about the chip game now. We'll have it before we can make a crucial play and grab himself that fifth frag and just close this deficit. Good tri-bolt damage here coming for Avik. It's going to drop down for the heavy anyway, considering how weak he currently is. And luckily he didn't take too much damage from the rockets, but the rail is looking good here from Dramus. Looking to get a little bit more. And will he be able to clean up? No, he doesn't. 11 HP. Avik now closing the gap by 1.
Avik making a run for it. Does get the Mega on time. It's going to help him out tremendously. Was pretty weak after that one. He's going to want to secure himself a rocket as well. Now Heavy is about to spawn. I don't think there's anything Avik can do to deny it. It's that he'll just stick around, kind of get the item timing. He wants to wait for a bit more stack. Oh, wow, beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
And again, that's what I'm talking about, Lethal. Avik is really positioning himself nicely, setting up with the LG, killing a lot of that momentum that Dramus has jumping around the corner, but Dramus just has the stack to keep going. And then Avik is still the one who has to yield in the end. Rocket into Shoddy. 3 frags ahead already. Oh, okay. Beautiful rockets. For a moment, I thought Dramus might end up regretting that decision. He wanted to pick up the small armor as well, turned the corner, realized that there wasn't one, and then Avik was on top of him. Rather than go pick up the heavy right away. But here we go. This is beautiful, gorgeous stuff from Dramus.
Yeah, and I do agree with what you were saying previously. At least Avik gets a nice little frag there, but Avik's been setting up really well. It's like you mentioned that even though he's setting up the LG around that line towards Mega, Dramus isn't going to expect it, so at least he's going to be able to get a huge chunk of damage before Dramus can then decide what weapons actually he wants. Oh, the rocket, but the rocket return coming out from Dramus straight afterwards.
Yeah.
As so far. Oh, he's backing away. Oh my goodness, Flea. Look at that. Look how weak Avik is at this point.
Dramus also got the better spawn out of the two by a mile. Right on top of the Mega, being able to pick up weapons that were dropped there. That's invaluable. Avik still tried to make a move on it. Might not have expected Dramus to get such a charitable spawn right there and ended up really backfiring. But on the other hand, what do you do at this point in the game? You've got to go plus forward. You got to take every fight you can. But if this one doesn't go his way, I think this might have just sealed the deal. 6 frags, a little over a minute. He's gonna have to make magic happen. Does he know where Dramus is, rather? I don't think so. Dramus is right below him. Dramus, the American, just burning time. Oh, he hears the bounce pad. Now Avik will know. What can he do with just 60 seconds, Lethal? Oh. Yeah, he's done. Taking off his headsets already. Doesn't quite call GG in chat yet, but, you know, might as well. Sends the signal that this is over. As Dramus will walk away with a map 1 victory.
He certainly does, and let's have a look at the things real quick. Yeah, it was an EU, so that's going to be huge for Dramus here. And we did say before, guys at home, that Dramus is currently 8th in the standing, just teetering on the edge from the bottom 8. But this is going to be a very good start. GG comes up from Avik.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we pretty much knew that when there was about a minute and a half left remaining. It was good stuff for both players, and I liked exactly what I was witnessing. We saw like Avik with those great setups, those setups we wouldn't normally expect, and I think it's still good setups to have even if you're quite weak in terms of stack. But it's like you mentioned before, the stacks was way too great. And there we have it. Dramus taking it 14-9, 17 items for Dramus and 19 for Avik.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. Avik did significantly, or not significantly, but he did a decent amount of damage more than his opponent, and he had more of the major items secured as well, but still, Dramus walking away with the win, and a sizable lead too. That stack advantage really ended up helping him out so much. And I liked a lot of plays by Avik, but I feel like he was perhaps a bit too eager to just stand and fight against an opponent that massively outstacked him. I think that going into this, he probably would have done better. The way that we saw Strong Sage play earlier, right? Really bide his time until you get a good rail and rocket combo, until you manage to steal away 2 items, put your opponent on the back foot. Whereas Avik this time around seemed really, really eager to just take any fight where he was like, yeah, you know, I could come out on top. So maybe if he had played the strengths of his character a bit more, leaned into just the speed, the maneuverability, dodging, long-distance rails, could have ended up differently.
Certainly could. It wasn't really the most rail-heavier matchups, but still a decent percentage from both players, especially Dramus against the Slash. 57% you can see from the damage, mainly from the LG from Avik, the rockets from Dramus. That was only the first map here, so Avik is teetering behind the endpoint man, but he's got 2 more maps left to go to bring this back and turn things completely around as we go to Ruins, the Ranger versus that Galena matchup, as you mentioned before, with the role reversal in terms of champion picks they would normally select of each other, and going to Awoken with the Athena versus the Visor. And I still don't know about the Athena versus Visor matchup and how that's going to go, but for Dramus to maybe, of course, secure his series, I think the Ruins will probably be his best opportunity compared to Awoken.
Could be, yeah. I don't know how well the final map's going to go down, because Avik, not a player who plays Athena very often, and Dramus picking what's very clearly an off-meta pick of his own. But hey, first we've got map 2 ahead of us, right? And it is Ranger versus Galena. You might look at these names and hear the champion picks, but no, it's not what you thought. It is actually Dramus who's running the Galena, and Avik who will counter with the Ranger. So Avik has got more mobility, has got more burst damage, but Galena's got those totems. So Avik is gonna have to be hyper aware of that. Try and look in the corners, clean those up, because before you know it, 3 totems are up. Galena's got that extra mega in her back pocket basically, and can make fights that you thought you would win easily turn out completely differently.
Yeah, if he could play detective really well for these totems, then Avik can be looking pretty good here going to the second map. It is going to be on NA this time, so it's going to be maybe it's a little bit different to what we anticipated. We thought we may take the first one, considering we saw from the champion matchup, and we know how, I wouldn't say amazing, but how decent Sorlag can be in Molten Force. But yeah, Dramus did a great job making that work, and let's see if it can continue and maybe take the series, or if Avik can bring it back here in these next 2 maps. Starting off from Dramus' POV.
Nice rockets, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Sold to the Galena. Excellent opener by Dramus. His rockets were good on map 1. And clearly, he's not letting off for map 2 either. No, Avik's still up there. Didn't drop down. I think Dramus kind of lost track of him now. But he's gonna hear those jumps. Looks like both players are just going to go for their major item. Dramus for heavy, Avik for mega, putting a slight delay on it. Might be setting up something for the next rotation here.
Looks like it could be the case. Items segregated by about 4 seconds. And Dramus just biding his time for now, just waiting to see where Avik could be lurking, and he's going to be directly above him. Misses that first rail, but it all comes in, becoming very aggressive. And this will be a huge kill for Avik, but he doesn't get it. Dramus didn't really take too much damage even. He could just continue the aggression here. Dramus can just go on through the TP and try and help contest that mega, but it's just a little bit too late, sadly, for him. But Heavy is up the next 15 seconds, and whoever's going to grab this Heavy, this is going to be huge for them, because they were full item and full map control.
Avik still has no weapons. All he's got is the heavy machine gun. Finally, he picks up the LG, but he's still lacking rockets. He still doesn't have the rail. He's got to be careful. Close range fights, he can't take. Long range fights, he can't engage in either. He's really got to complete that arsenal of his first. There we go, rockets go his way. But there is Dramus, knocking at the door. Pre-firing some rockets, looking for a way in.
He's got the info he needs, obviously, from the previous rocket from Avec, but he just made the assumption it's going to be there anyway, which is understandable. Good read. Backing up for that heavy. Find another totem down once again. And this is good for Dramus because he's focusing on the heavy anyways, and when he gets the overstack, it's going to be even more beneficial at like time in this map. As Mega's been up for quite a while now. As Avec just heading towards that direction. It's not too long until he gets his overstack either, and we see this from quite a few players as well. Just keeping their totems in the areas or the paths which they're going to take in order to try and take down Avec here. And again, just good LG, good first row early for Dramus, looking to try and do a bit more use of the rocket, clean him up with the LG. Will he be able to? Yes, he does. 13 HP, but again, with this overstack,
yeah,
it's going to be so beneficial for him, as I mentioned before, in the long run. Good first rail, looking for the second, and he gets it. Great stuff from Dramus.
I mean, Dramus has really kind of been ignoring Mega for most of this map. He's only picked up 1 Mega health, but he doesn't need to go for it. He can create his own. That's a very deliberate game plan to prioritize the heavy while knowing that he can kind of create his own health. And there we go. He's got 3 totems up right next to him. He is hoping that Avec takes this fight because he's got so much to fall back on. Now Avec does take away 1 of them, so there goes the overstack potential, at least for now. Avec looks like he might have wanted to chase. Surely he does now. 65 points of health for Dramus. 1 rail will do it. 90. 1 rail will still do it, but the totem comes out in time. Here we go. Just like that, Lethal. From 60 points of health back to 175 without ever needing to step foot in the Mega Room.
Avec right now clearly knows that he's got so many totems out and he's got this overstack and just needs to break that heavy setup. But what can he do when he's just recovering like this every single time? Just been extremely difficult to contend with, and I'm sure that totem will be a pain if Avec bounces into that later on. But instead he's actually going to go on that side, takes down 1. He's found another one, and there's only 1 more left standing here. So at least he's managed to break this hold which he's had around the heavy jump pad and the heavy area just in general. It's taken a bit of time, but he's got there in the end. His stacks are almost equal. But we're just at the halfway point here. Flea, we're going to hit the 5-minute mark. Still Dramus with 4-0 lead. I've seen Avec do some crazy comebacks on runes in the past, and he's going to be requiring another one potentially, depending on how much time's left by the end of this.
At the very least, all of the totems have been cleaned up. So that fortress that Dramus had been building for himself, at least for the time being, it's gone. This is an opportunity for Avec to make a move, but these rails are so punishing. Dramus barely missing at all, keeping Avec at bay. And even when Avec lands some damage of his own, it feels like Dramus is retaliating and responding in turn every single time. That's making it tremendously difficult for Avec to find his stride and to apply pressure.
Made that rocket jump, but you know what? Probably done himself a little bit of a favour there, as Dramus was actually already spamming beforehand in that T-junction. Missed rail, but Dramus does have to stack to work with the direct. Oh, and Avec still 1 HP. My God, I didn't even realise until just then. 4 minutes left in play. Avec has time to come back, but he can't afford to let this get traded out. Good little bit of damage, but Dramus is just going to keep pursuing this and trying to make it a 5th. He knows that, of course, this isn't a guaranteed victory. He still needs to do a bit more in order to confirm it. But yeah, look at the stack now, and Avec was maybe looking at a setup, but he just backed off once again. Still on 36 HP, finds one of the other totems there. Of course, not going to destroy it as of yet, because he wants to have a bit of time to pick up that light before giving away his position.
A lesser player would have just shot it instantly, but Avec knew that would have just given away his position. Oh, huge orb! Confusion on both sides right there. I think they both just completely lost track of the opponent. It looked to me like Avik was gonna clean it up with that orb, but didn't find the damage that he needed. Oh, wow, Dramis. Rocket propels him into the room with the rail perfectly lined up. Avik has to push this. He's got no choice. He will. 5 frags, 3 minutes. Doable. Can he land another rail? Can he clean it up? Nope. Had an opportunity. Could have made it happen. There we go. Little bit of MG maybe. Oh, he's just too late. He's just too late to get it. There we go. We'll find the frag in the end. But these are troubled kills, Lethal. They are far from clean. Avik. Oh. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. He sacrificed so much of his stack to clean up the previous frag, and now Dramis retaliates.
Certainly has done, and things could get worse here considering the stack difference. Good amount of damage that last nail, and the rail straight afterwards from Dramis. That's going to be most probably the final nail in the coffin. We do have 2 minutes left, and we've got the overstack, and he can just have the Mega as a little treat, can't he, at this point? Let's see what Avik can do here for the remainder of this map, but it looks like it probably will be a done deal. Somehow Avik creates a complete spiral, but the way Dramis is playing at the moment, and I don't know how you feel about Dramis' style and how he's been playing so far, but he seems to be pushing and being quite defensive at the right times here, and it's nice to see as well, like a good amount of balance coming up from Dramis.
Yeah, indeed. He's done a great job at applying pressure. Oh, Avik. Goodness. You can see the defeat on his face. He is not happy with how that panned out. He's taken his headset off. He knows that the series win will have gone in favor of Dramis. Now, can he at least secure a win on the final map?
This could have been the next question. It's a done deal for Dramis, but Avik needs to try and get at least this next map back. And we said it before, Dramis needed this victory really just to keep himself in it in terms of his placement on the leaderboard. And already 2-0 up, I think a lot of us has seen this as a little bit of a shock to the system.
I don't disagree. Avik has just gone completely AFK. He's accepted his fate. There's still one more map to go. Lethal, one more chance that Avik has to at least get himself, you know, some of those valuable points. It's all cash matches, right? It's money matches through and through, so he still has something to fight for. Let's see if he can muster it.
Yeah, I hope so for his sake. It's something I just didn't really expect this early on. I knew that Dramis does have a chance to obviously make his own record of a 2-1 victory here. I think a lot of us would have said Avik, considering his strong stance to some of the top players here in this league. But the fact that the worrying moment was, of course, him losing on the EU server on Molten Falls and then going to Ruins on NA. I was like, not really too sure how this is going to go, but I've a lot of faith in Avik and what he's going to be able to achieve. But now we've already got a 2-0 lead here for Dramis, and now we're going back to EU. It's going to be the Athena versus the Visor matchup, and I kind of feel like we know how good Athena can be, and you did say yourself that Avik has got a huge amount of experience with the Athena, but it's still an advantage in itself, and I do feel like for him, he can easily claw this map back, considering the server, the Athena as well. But the way Dramis is playing at the moment, he's making it quite awkward for Avik at times, but he's had some good aim skill across the board as well.
I do think that Avik has got a solid chance at winning this. Like we've already said, right? Athena, not one of his main picks, obviously. But if he can play, you know, it doesn't even have to be an excellent Athena. If he can play a serviceable, a solid, a good Athena, I think he will be able to secure a win based on champion picks alone, because I'm really just not feeling the Visor pick on Dramis' end. If this would have been Doomslayer right now, I would have been sitting here saying, yeah, 3-0 for Dramis seems very likely, but Visor, you know, you've got so little mobility, it's a relatively small map, so the utility from the piercing sight's already limited. Like, we've seen Visor being used on this map to great effect, absolutely. But, yeah, can that overcome Athena? even after the nerf, she is still a very powerful pick.
I was going to mention that as well. Very, very few players has made Visor work down to a T. It's very particular to your style and how you want to approach either the items, your opponent, and get some kind of advantage on their whereabouts. And the style of play with the Visor on a map like Awoken is crucial, and it's extremely important in how you want to try and progress this. And the way, if it was how Dramus was playing maybe a few weeks ago, wouldn't be too sure about it. It would probably be up for discussion, so to speak, or hour-long podcast. But from what we've seen so far, he's playing very well-rounded. I think it's probably the best word to describe how he's been playing so far. He hasn't been too aggressive for kills, hasn't been playing too passive and getting too defensive towards the later stage of some of his maps, or he may trying to claw that advantage. It's just been very well-rounded, and kind of similar to how we saw from Tox. Tox was very well-rounded, but loved a good trade, loved a bit of eagerness towards to finish up some of those frags. I understand that, that's just his style, but Dramus has been, again, very well-balanced, and Visor, he could make it work. He could be one of the very few people who could change things, but it's like I said before, we don't even need an average Athena. It's just a decent Athena matchup for Avec in order to take this last map away from Dramus.
All right, now let's see. I think that, looking at the player cam, we could clearly see that Avec was not happy with how things went. All right, you could definitely see that he was struggling with his performance, just with what was happening in the game. Let's hope that he's been able to reset. Let's hope that he's been able to just, get his mind back into it, leave all of that behind him, and focus on this final map. Because there's still money, there's still points on the line, and this could absolutely go in his favor.
It certainly could, as we head into our third map of this series. Dramus currently up 2-0, but you're right, though. I do feel like with Avec, he's a player who's very good at mentally resetting before going to the next game. And yeah, he's probably just a little bit frustrated because he knows he could do a lot better. But Dramus has just been playing well. Let's we can't. It's paying off so far. As we are going to be starting off from Dramus' perspective, it's been quite aggressive with the LG, switching over to the Rockets just to force Avec to keep his distance, and already got that nice little stack advantage in his first 30 seconds.
Absolutely does. Good rail from Avec, though. Another one of those would be huge. Indeed, he gets it, but he eats one of his own. I expect that if Avec did not take a hit there, but just landed his own rail, he would have pushed. He would have shown that Avec aggression. Oh no. Dramus, he hears the teleport. Blind rocket behind him. And it once again stops Avec in his tracks. Avec no armor to his name. Taking chip damage. That all adds up, 2-3 rockets doing 30 points of damage each. Oh, the Mega to the rescue. 11 points of health left, even with the Mega spawning right under his feet. Avic's aim was ridiculous right there.
The worst bit is Avec did actually play that really well. He made Dramus overthink just a little bit when he was hiding in the corner of the right side of the light, just to make him think that he's made a drop, but he didn't. He still reappeared. Avic's tied this up. One apiece, and picks up the Mega. Heavy's up in the next few seconds. He's just going to go for it. Understandable. He may be able to stop it from burning it. He does. Absolutely crucial there from Avec. Just needs a rail now just to be able to deal with some of those other situations. It gets the LG out, and this is much better from Avec.
Absolutely. Wonderful LG aim. Near perfect tracking right there. A little bit of a... I think he didn't mean to get that ramp jump off as Athena on the ledge. So he was late, making his way back to the Mega. Dramus was able to secure it in turn. Oh, piercing side gets used. Avec had already zipped across the room, was unable to turn around. Dramus able to land. Nice rail, assisted by that piercing side.
Oh, lovely rail there from Avec, just increasing his lead once again. And yeah, this is just looking so much better. He's got good reads, good defensive rockets, and what a rail. And he's actually stopped him from picking up that light.
Did Avec see him? He might have. At least he knows his positioning right now. Dramus, good rails though. And you know, a rail's a rail, 90 damage flat, but that 90 hits a lot more, or hurts a lot more, on a light champion that doesn't even spawn with armor to begin with. Oh, Avek. As good as Avek's LG has been, his rockets have been a little lackluster in some of these fights. Perhaps being a little too far away to consistently get rocket damage in, but then just standing his ground with rockets out against his opponent's LG hasn't really worked out for him. He should be able to get this though. Yeah, perfect. Good use of that hook. Avek knew exactly how low Dramus was.
I love that as well. Good
go.
LG to rockets to rail combo 7-2. And yeah, it's even him. His rockets been extremely good. Sometimes they haven't. It's just been a mixed bag. As much as everyone would love the most perfect of rockets, he hasn't got any rockets left actually in the chamber either. Dramus has got a fair few. It's Avek's taking a fair amount of damage from these rockets. Needs to back away. Was hoping to maybe rail Dramus and be able to pick up that heavy, but oh, you just saw there, barely giving Avek any chance to be able to pick him off as he was rocket jumping himself over towards the rail. Mega's up in the next 2 seconds. His stats almost equal as he does use that hook to back away. Still got one more hook left. Does pick up the lights. Mega's still up, mind you, so this is a great delay coming up from Avek. Is Dramus does have the timing, but again, these rails back to back again. They both actually miss. Avek isn't railable anymore. Dramus still a little keen here to try and clean up Avek.
Some pretty risky plays by Avek. Yeah, he's in the leads, but still chasing down a Visor when you're at 60 points of health and he's just lining up his crosshair at the doorway. Those were some risky plays. Avek feeling very confident, clearly. Good LG. Honestly, Avek at this point should just be forgoing rockets unless he's at point blank range and just making that LG of his shine. Forget about the rockets unless you're right on top of him. And he should be headed for a win here.
Certainly should. LG coming out, rockets not the best, but the rail from Avek is just that better. Now he's got that 7 frag lead. He's got the Mega and Heavy's calling his name in the next 5 seconds. Great plasma rifle damage as well coming out from Avek. He's just trying to scurry away if he can, and yes, he does. Grabs that Heavy. So now Path of Destruction could continue here. As he's just heading towards that tri-bolt choke point, but it's going to rotate back around to the TP and will be found around that Mega.
And what do you do when you're Dramus? Avek heard that piercing sight. Still goes for the fight though. Just gotta be careful. 38 points of health. Does get the heavy. Dramus unable to apply enough pressure right there. Good rail. Avek gets away for now. And now, as Dramus, yeah, what do? You're trying to chase down a champion that is so much faster and more mobile than you are. I think that was perhaps a sigh of relief from Avek. I don't know if you were looking at the player cam, but he just took his hands off the keyboard and just held his head for a moment with a big sigh. Thinking that, you know, maybe it's in the bag, right? Maybe there was a bit of relief that after those two initial losses on map 1 M2, he's now finally looking in a position where he, with significant certainty, can say that he will win Awoken.
No, I actually didn't see that, I'm afraid. I always go by in-game and not not by the player cams, but
me too, but I saw him just stop in-game, so I was like, hang on, what's going on here?
Yeah, I know I'm an awful human being. I know it's horrendous, but I'm not staring at their beautiful faces whilst we're whilst they're casting their matches. I think that's why, actually, Flea. I think the reason why I actually go in-game is because I'll just get heavily distracted by the cams and how handsome they are. But it's alright. I might do it in the next series. I'll see how I feel as Avek 58 HP. Oh my god, the rockets. A little bit too late, sadly, for Dramus. Needs to find 10 frags in the next 2 minutes, but Avek's going to be, of course, not the happiest with how the series went, but at least he played really strong and really well in this third map.
Indeed he did. The champion pick definitely favored him. Like when it comes down to the visor, right? Yeah, there were a few situations where Dramus made good use of the ability, where he was able to land a nice rail that he otherwise might not have been able to connect if he had not had the ability up. Overall, I feel like this is difficult to justify. The value he got out of it, I feel like is comparatively minor, put alongside, say, something like a Doom, right? If you would have picked a Doom Slayer, you would have so much more mobility around the center area of the map, around that rail platform, around the LG and the Tribolt. And I just feel like Visor didn't deliver the kind of value that I suspect Dramus was hoping to get out of him. Like, I wish we would have had an interview with Dramus, because that's what I would have asked him.
Not wrong, and even with the Athena having 2 hooks instead of 3, it's still incredible champion to a great viable option on majority of maps, especially with the on Awoken. But GG's from both these players, 17-3. What a difference in comparison to what we've seen in those first 2 maps. 21 items for Aavik, 24 light, and we've got 12 items for Dramus and 16 lights as well. And so the hit percentage is pretty much exactly equal, apart from Aavik firing a lot more, of course, and getting a lot more damage. But his LG was also really good, 42% there, as we can see. But yeah, that was pretty crazy stuff. I do feel like Aavik, you can tell from his style of play, just looked a lot more comfortable and just looked a lot better and a lot less frustrated in comparison. But of course, he won't be happy with how the series turned out. But, you know, just grabbing the last map, it's just, you know, it's something you can at least take away from. But I'm sure he'll be looking back at those first 2 maps to see exactly just what went wrong, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Would have been great to have an interview, because I would have loved to hear what these people had to say. But just look at that, 42% LG accuracy, over 2,000 points of damage with just that weapon alone. Good plays by Aavik, his accuracy through the roof, and there was even quite a bit of, you know, pre-firing and getting ready, so his real accuracy would be even better. And I'm very happy to see that there was indeed a point where Aavik just kind of realized that those mid-range rockets weren't working for him, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna stick with the LG, reserve rockets for when I'm close enough to see the white of his eyes, and he made it work that way.
Yeah, Dramus just his strafe, not his strafe pattern, but in terms of like his movement around Mega, just sometimes he made it a little bit awkward for Aavik, and sadly didn't hit the rockets he would like to. It happens from time to time. Of course, we're not going to have the most perfect rockets in the world. You can obviously line up the angles from where they're going to come from, but when on a flat path and you're trying to shoot them, we know that some of these top players can make it a little bit annoying. I think that's probably the safest word for me to say right now. As you can see, Aavik 17-3, and Aavik's always been very, very good with his LG, depending on his situation. But there we have it, though. It doesn't change the fact that Dramus does win the series 2-1 in quite good fashion, but Aavik really made his mark and made an impact in that third map, just to basically say to him, look, you may have won the first 2, but I dominated you on this third map, so don't start laughing now.
Yeah, indeed, congratulations to Dramus. Well-deserved victory. He played this so nicely on the first 2 maps, right? Really making good use of Sorlag's weight, the mass, the stack, to just bully Aavik around, take these fights, and just kind of bulldoze him in a lot of those engagements. And then on map 2, very nice plays by Galena, clever placement of the totems, ignoring Mega for a significant portion of the map, because he knew that he could generate his own health. So clever plays from Dramus. He went into this with a clear strategy, and it paid off.
Certainly did indeed. I did always say Dramus is just a diamond in the rough, mate. Sometimes he will just pull out these W's in the bag, and it is frustrating. It certainly is. We've still got 4 more series left to go here. Our next matchup will be against the likes of Sib versus Sirius. So guys, don't go anywhere, as we'll be back in just a few.